The Dungeon Master Experience. This regular column is for dungeon masters who like to build worlds and campaigns as much as I do. Here, I share my experiences as a DM through the lens of Iomandra, my Dungeons & Dragons campaign world. Even though the campaign uses the 4th edition rules, the topics covered here often transcend editions. Hopefully, this series of articles will give you inspiration, ideas, and awesome new ways to menace your players in your home campaigns. If you're interested in learning more about the world of Iomandra, check out the wiki. Dungeon Master for Life, Chris Perkins. Point of Origin. Wednesday night. 3 years ago, the Iomandra campaign has just gotten underway. The characters have converged on Keth, a small, politically insignificant island in the middle of the Dragon Sea. An island with many secrets yet to be revealed. Chris Youngs is playing a tiefling warlock named Demos, who was shipwrecked on the island as a child nearly 2 decades ago. Little does Demos know that the shipwreck was no accident, nor does he realize that the Dragomir Empire wants him dead. Neither Chris nor his character know that Demos was, as a child, subjected to an arcane experiment that trapped the spirit of an ancient dragon sorcerer inside him, or that he was sold off by its grandmother, the leader of a powerful tiefling thieves guild called the Horned Alliance. Over the next several years, these secrets will come to light, and the full story of how Demos came to the island will be known. Every campaign starts somewhere. A tavern in Waterdeep, an isolated village, a shipwreck upon the shore of an Isle of Dread. These are backdrops against which we first meet the characters, the heroes of the campaign. At this point, the campaign world is a complete mystery to the players, and the only thing they can relate to are their characters. For this reason alone, it behooves the Dungeon Master to take some time before the campaign begins to create hooks that tether the heroes to the setting, origin stories that make the characters feel intrinsic to the world. Once I've chosen a starting point for my campaign, but before play begins, I like to inspire my players to consider their characters' origins, get them thinking about where their characters came from. I'm less concerned about how the characters found one another. That bit of artifice usually isn't important, since most players are willing and eager to accept that fate or circumstance has brought their characters together. However, it's been my experience that players have trouble coming up with origin stories because their understanding of the world is so limited. This is less true if you're running a campaign in a world with which the players are intimately familiar. All characters had lives before they became adventurers. At least that's the underlying conceit of the characters' themes. First introduced in the Dark Sun campaign setting and carried forward in other 4th edition products published since. While character themes are terrific, and I heartily encourage DMs to permit them in their campaigns, published themes can't account for the specific stories you're aiming to tell in the course of your home campaign. Consequently, I like to create origin stories that my players can choose from, if they are stuck for ideas. After I've decided to start my campaign on a small island, I spent a rainy Sunday afternoon writing up a bunch of different origin stories that my players could choose from. It wasn't required that they do so. In some cases, my players already had an origin story in mind, and I just needed to figure out how to fit it in. This activity turned out to be a great exercise, because it forced me to think about different ways to bring characters together and connect them in events that were about to unfold. Here's what I gave my players as they were creating characters for the Iomandra campaign. Your origin story. The campaign begins on the Isle of Keth, which begs the question, are you a native of the island, or did events conspire to bring you here? Following are some likely origin stories for your character. Once you've chosen or concocted a story for your character, you can begin to hash out the details with your DM. You are Tyrakan born. You are a native of Tyrakan, the only settlement on Keth. Your family lives in town and either fishes, forages, tends a modest garden, or runs a small business. You are friends with just about everyone in town, although you've probably forged a very close bond with at least one local citizen. Racial possibilities. If you are a half-elf between the ages of 17 and 25, you may choose to be the son or daughter of Magistrate von Zarkin, giving you a fair amount of local clout. Your father is a shrewd leader and has taken great pains over the years to appease the island's green dragon overlord and uphold his grandfather's good name. Your mother is warm and funny in private, but surprisingly aloof and formal in public. You fear that there's something important she hasn't told you or your father, a secret she's likely to carry to her grave. If you are a halfling between the ages of 17 and 25, you may have had a troubled older or younger brother named Jint, who disappeared 4 years ago. Jint broke the law when he persuaded 2 other local youths, a human boy named Jesper and a half-elf girl named Vazia, to join him on an expedition to the ruins atop Serpent Hill. No one is allowed there by the order of the magistrate. Jint and his friends never returned, and the magistrate refused to send a hunting party to find them. You were a shipwrecked orphan. 19 years ago, a ship called the Morrow's Folly crashed on the island of Keth during a freak storm. The only survivors were the captain, a half-elf named Denarian Morrow, and several young children, yourself included. You were very young at the time, 2 to 5 years old then, making you 21 to 26 years old now, and you don't remember anything. You and the other children were adopted by the local townsfolk and raised as natives. Although he's not much of a father figure, Captain Morrow has been watching over you all these years, but still claims that he can't remember anything that happened before the shipwreck. You have no clue where you came from, or who your real parents are. You're friends with just about everyone in town, although you've probably forged a very close bond with at least one local citizen. 4 years ago, 3 of your friends, a troubled halfling boy named Jint, a curious human lad named Jesper, and a half-elf girl named Vazia, left town to explore Serpent Hill, even though locals are strictly forbidden to go there. They never returned. Captain Morrow urged Magistrate von Zarkin to send a patrol to locate them, but the magistrate refused. 2 men haven't spoken since. Jesper and Vazia were also survivors of the Morrow's Folly shipwreck, and Captain Morrow regrets not going after them himself. You were forsaken. You were born and raised elsewhere, brought to the island of Keth by ship, and for whatever reason, left behind. Hoping to find your place in the community, you've probably forged a close bond with at least one of the local citizens. Racial possibilities. If you were a dragonborn, you may be the son or daughter of parents who were exiled from Arcosian soil. One or both of your parents may have been pirates or outspoken opponents of the Dragovor monarchy. In either case, they probably figured you'd be safer on a small backwater island of little consequence to the rest of the Dragovor Empire. If you were an elf between the ages of 24 and 30, you may choose to be the son or daughter of Lady Theriol von Zarkin from a previous marriage. Your father is a wealthy ship captain named Toril Winterleaf, who recently made some powerful enemies. 3 weeks ago, you were spirited out of Iokalioth, the Dragovor capital, by your father's servants, smuggled aboard the trade ship Lantheon, and sent to stay with your mother for your own safety. You never got a chance to say goodbye to your father, and your mother didn't exactly welcome you with open arms. It's been 23 years after all, and your sudden arrival has created unrest in von Zarkin Manor. For his part, Magistrate von Zarkin seems to be handling the situation quite well, particularly since your mother never told him she had had a child with her previous husband. If you were a tiefling between the ages of 17 and 25, you may choose to be the niece or nephew of Lucius Vazetus, the friendly proprietor of the Talisman. You were born and raised in the slums of Iokalioth, and several years ago your parents brought you to see Uncle Lucius as a child and left you with him without explanation. Although he makes you do chores around the tavern, your uncle has been very forgiving of your irksome adolescent antics. When asked about your parents, he merely frowns and grumbles in supernal. None of the above. Perhaps you've come to Keth for entirely different reasons. As a result, you may or may not have forged strong ties with the community. Some brief suggestions are listed below. First, someone you cared about was arrested 10 years ago by Dragovor authorities and sent to the prison island of Melitros. You believe this person was imprisoned wrongfully, and the key to clearing his or her good name rests with a missing sea captain named Denarian Morrow, whom you finally tracked to the backwater town of Tirakin on the island of Keth. 2. You swindled or double-crossed a sea captain named Lydia Tarolan. only to discover afterwards that she was working for Sea King Sinistrago. Upon learning the truth, you fled aboard the hammer ship Lantheon, headed for Tirakin. You've opted to lay low until things blow over. Hopefully by then, you've found some protection, or some way to make amends. 3. The Church of Avandra has sent you to Tirakin to assist a local priest, Sister Allison. She specifically requested someone gifted with an adventurous spirit. Allison believes that certain townsfolk are blessed with an adventurous nature that will soon manifest, but they need Avandra's assistance to survive their travails. You are the one Sister Allison hopes will help these other adventurers safely walk the dark path. 4. You have a vivid dream about a silver dragon. It asks you to travel to the island of Keth and locate a man named Johias Hilon. The dragon in your dream sounded real enough, and also claimed that the rewards for your success would be great. Lessons learned. One of the joys of running a campaign is watching the players learn its mysteries. However, at the start of the campaign, everything is a mystery. One of the ways you can tell the players a little about the world and build anticipation for what's to come is to give them origin story ideas that you can connect to some of the bigger stories of your campaign. Case in point, Chris Youngs was looking for a hook to tie his tiefling character to the world of Iomandra, and he liked the "you're a shipwrecked orphan" idea quite a bit. He also liked the idea that Diamos would form a close bond with Lucius Vesitus, tiefling proprietor of the Talisman. They were, after all, the only tieflings on the island. You only need a handful of origin stories, and the time you invest in their creation will pay off in spades over the course of the campaign. Here's why I love creating them. 1. Origin stories make the heroes feel like living, breathing elements of your campaign world. And 2, origin stories come with pre-built hooks for adventures. Let the events of the past inform the events of the future. Until the next encounter. I want to thank all of you who have made it to the end of this video. This reading comes from Chris Perkins' Dungeon Magazine series, The Dungeon Master Experience, in which Chris gives excerpts of wisdom and lessons he's learned from many years of running games. If you're interested in reading it for yourself, you can find a link down in the description along with links to where you can find the music used in this video, which is a product of Critical Role's Scanlan Shorthalt Press.